Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Pearsall. I'm the community manager here at the Second Step program, and I am really excited to be able to come to you guys with our May Second Step Educator Community Spotlight. This is probably my favorite of all of the different things that we do. So I'm excited. I hope y'all are as well. I want to begin with a land acknowledgement. Committee for Children's offices sit on the unceded traditional lands of the Coast Salish people, specifically the first people of Seattle, Washington, the Duwamish tribe. As we honor the Duwamish people and their ancestors, it's also important that we consider our place in the past, present, and future history of the indigenous peoples of our region, as well as how we can best support them. Thank you. So this month, I am very excited to introduce you all to Laura Packert. She is a school counselor in the Talawanda School District in Oxford, Ohio. She is also a good follow on Twitter if you want to follow an educator who is gracious enough to share all the work that she's doing on Twitter. I think it's Mrs. MRS Packert is her handle. Laura, welcome to the SEL. Well, you're already in the SEL Education Committee. Welcome to the Community Spotlight.
Thank you. Sorry, I had to shut my window. Thank you so much.
And you're looking very festive today as well.
Oh, yes. It's under the C day in first grade. And so I figured, I'm not going to show up not being myself. And so if I got lace to wear and flowers in the hair, then I'm doing it.
Awesome. So Laura, I think a number of us are familiar with your kind of contributions to the community and your support of educators who are using Second Step and teaching social emotional learning. But I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about your background, kind of what brought you to being a social emotional learning educator.
Absolutely. So when I was in middle school and high school, I wanted to be a school counselor. I had fantastic school counselors growing up who made a huge impact on me. I loved kids and I loved being a good friend. And so when I saw those two merge together to be a school counselor, I jumped right on. I started in Worthington, Ohio, which is a suburb of Central Ohio, at a wonderful, wonderful district where we didn't have a curriculum. And so we basically created our curriculum pulling from places. And then my husband got a job promotion, which ended up us down in the Cincinnati area, where we had the funds to be able to purchase curriculum. And so we bought Second Step, and man, it has made my life as a school counselor so much easier because it's all there. And we don't have to create and connect because it's already created and connected to all of our school counseling standards. And,
That's great. I mean, I think I appreciate hearing that. That's our goal at Committee for Children, is to be able to kind of help make that happen for y'all so that you all can do the work that you're doing with kids. How long have you been using the Second Step program?
Yeah, so we've been using the Second Step program. I think this is our 5th year. So our cards are nice and beat up and used, and Puppy and Snail are like other students in our building. They're like just a part of our family. So it's been about 5 years since we've started implementing Second Step.
Oh, so what is some of the work that you're doing in your school? What are some of the things that you're doing with students to support their social emotional learning development?
Yeah, so actually this month is my favorite month ever since I started being a school counselor. In May, I read the book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, and have each grade level do an activity, like an offshoot of that. What's really cool is now that the kids are well-versed in our common language with Second Step, it's awesome and easy to connect the lessons in Oh, the Places You'll Go to the lesson that we're the Second Step lesson. For example, I have the book memorized, by the way, just because I've read it so many times over the years. But there's a stanza in the book where it's like, games you can't win because you'll play against you. And I'd ask my 5th graders, I'd say, what do you think that means? And one of my kids raised their hands and so brilliantly said, I think that has to do with our self-talk in our brain, and how oftentimes that negative self-talk that's going on in our brain is our biggest battle. And so when you're playing a game against yourself, sometimes it is that self-talk. And I loved seeing that connect between life and the Second Step program, that this is a part of their language now. Yeah. So with that, so we read the book, we talk about it, and then in the upper grades, I've been having them write letters to next year's incoming grade level. And
Mm-hmm.
in that, like, they're like connecting things back, like use that feelings talk to a grown-up if you're struggling. And it's actually quite beautiful to see it
Mm-hmm.
all come full circle, especially with this fourth grade class, because the fourth graders have had second step since kindergarten.
Oh, this is your first class that's had it their whole career.
Exactly. And so it's like a part of them,
Mm-hmm.
because this is the language we've been speaking here.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And when you kind of talk about bringing things full circle, that reminded me of something that you mentioned you wanted to bring up, was this idea of social emotional learning as being something that can be taught, which is something that I think, we say, it's easy to say it can be taught, but there's still a big feeling that a lot of it is something that just kind of is inherent in individuals. What have you seen? And now that you're at this point where you have a whole group of kids that have had like intentional social emotional learning their entire careers, what are you seeing? How are you seeing them grow? What are some of the takeaways you have from that?
Yeah. So, well, I think because when I became a parent, I started to realize even more, like I can sit there and preach all that I want, that you have to teach these behaviors. But when I became a parent and I realized that my 4-year-old needs to be taught behavior, that's when it hit home. That's when I was like, oh my gosh, what we're doing in the schools is so vital. So teaching the expectations, teaching, we can't hold kids to a level of behavior if we're not teaching the behavior. And so teaching what it looks like to have your eyes watching, your ears listening, your voice is quiet. But I actually think that it goes back to the teacher needs to model it first. We need to model it, because if we're not living it out, if we're not saying that this is what we expect you to be or live how we want you to live, then we're hypocrites.
Mm-hmm.
And so just modeling it and living it and teaching very clearly, we expect that kids know all of these things. And they don't, and my kids don't, my personal children don't. But that's the thing, is that like if we're not teaching it to them, like we are thinking that they know everything that we know, but we're grown-ups.
Yeah.
And they don't know these things, and they don't have these skills, and a lot of the time the families aren't teaching it at home, because either they don't know what their kids don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but teaching those things and modeling those things, talking about what it means to be assertive, talking about what it means to persevere, modeling, and then bringing it back home. Like, especially I love my role as a school counselor, because I teach in the classroom twice a month. I teach our SEL lessons in the classroom twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, when I have girl drama in this office, we're going right back to using those eyes messages before even starting to problem solve. Stop, name your feeling, calm down.
Mm-hmm.
To, like, the language comes alive. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
a lesson, it's something we live, and it's a part of our DNA.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen, are there, when you think back over the 5 years that you've been doing second step in social emotional learning, are there particular kind of examples that stand out to you of kids that have really kind of flourished with it?
Yeah. So just as simple as last week, we were doing state testing, and one of my kiddos, he was feeling really overwhelmed with this test. And I was so proud of him, because he said, Mrs. Packert, watch, I'm going to stop. I'm going to name my feeling, and then I'm going to take some deep breaths. And afterwards, like, he looked at me and he's like, it worked. Like, I can do this. And so, but seeing them like recognize and realize that what we're teaching really does work, whether that's second step, whether that's anything that we're teaching, once it connects home, like it's life-changing.
Mm-hmm.
It's life-changing for them, and it's life-changing for us, the educators.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now that you've got a full like school career of kids under your belt who have gone through this, what's some advice you have for other people who are using the program? I think specifically how to kind of get to a point where you've got a sustained implementation where you've really kind of embedded it into your school.
Yeah. That's a great question. I would actually step back a little bit and remind anybody that you can't teach somebody if you don't really have a positive relationship with them. And so much of what I do I would hope is effective because of the relationships that I've built with my kids. When I go into a classroom, like the first thing we always do is just share something like, what's a high and low of your life right now? And we practice empathy. Like if a kid was like, well, my cat died this weekend, we would just open up by making it a safe place. But that starts in those relationships the second they come in the door. That starts when we play music out in the hallways and it's kids bop and it's stupid and it's fun, but it makes kids feel like school is a safe place. And when they're feeling like it is a safe place and like this is some place they want to be, then they're going to be the sponge. But if you're walking into a classroom and your relationship with the kids either is non-existent, it's going to be really challenging. So my advice would be just to build those relationships and make that the first priority, whether that's stupid stuff like I brought warheads to school. Last year I was bringing warheads to school and I was doing like stupid like warhead challenges with the classroom teacher. And
what's a warhead?
You don't know what a warhead is?
I don't know what a warhead is.
Oh my gosh. Okay. A warhead is a piece of candy that's like dipped in this super sour powder.
Ooh.
And it's like it hurts your tongue. Like it's just
that sounds delicious.
There's a reason why I didn't do it. I was facilitating it. But like doing stupid things like that to see how long like a teacher can last against a kid makes that the fun environment, makes them engaged, makes them want to be there and want to learn, because you're not coming in like, intense and like you don't care about them. So I think relationships and anything that we do, second step, math, science, life is key.
Well, I think that's I really appreciate you kind of putting relationships front and center, because I think that is such I hear that so often, that it's really kind of critical to all this work that we're doing. Laura, I want to thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day. I can hear the day going on behind you. I want to thank you so much for coming and joining us and telling us just a little bit about your work. It's been fantastic.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
And this is not the end of what we've got going on in the Second Step Educator community this week. Tomorrow we've got an event coming up, that last minute live question and answer session on our new social emotional learning for adults program that's launching in just a couple weeks. Keith Bolcher, who is the principal at one of our pilot schools, one of the few educators in the world who's actually used this program and implemented this program, is going to come and do a live question and answer session, answer a question that y'all have submitted about this program, what it's like actually to use. So I highly encourage you to tune in tomorrow to watch it. And if you're watching this as a recording and it's no longer May 20th, that will be available as a recording, or may already be available as a recording right where you're watching this. So, and finally, I want to remind everybody that if you are not watching this in the Second Step Educator community, that the Second Step Educator community is a thing. It exists. We would love to have you join us as a member. It's a Facebook group. You see the information right here for how to join. Free, doesn't cost anything, and you can come in and you can connect with thousands of Second Step educators like yourself, like Laura, who have it's a great place to come for support. In using Second Step, it's a great place to come and share your own expertise as well, like Laura was doing right here. So if you're not a member yet, highly encourage y'all to join. And with that, I will see all y'all. I'll see all y'all tomorrow. Take care, everybody.